Welcome to our annual guide of the best racing helmets of 2023. And in this guide we will compare the best racing helmets from all the top brands and find out the answer to that burning question: what is the best racing helmet of 2023? We geared up our bike with all of our measuring equipment, sent the rider out on the road, and he came back with a lot of interesting data, so stay tuned. Hello everyone, I'm Tom from Champion Helmets and welcome to our channel. Race helmets are full face helmets and are designed with a focus on performance, aerodynamic and safety. But if this is done for every helmet, then how do you know which one is the best? During our guides, we compare the best helmets and to see if the statements by the manufacturers are true. We put in a lot of time and effort into these videos with just one goal, so that you get to see an honest review based on facts instead of marketing language or personal opinions. So, if you appreciate this effort, hit that like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel, so that we can continue to test helmets out on the road and make these guides. Okay, before we start, first a few things in general. Racing helmets have a cool sporty look and often with spoilers on the back for improved aerodynamics. And some helmets have an extra hydration system that you can connect to a camelback for hot track days. Usually racing helmets come with a double D closure since this is required on most tracks. The focus is on aerodynamics, ventilation and safety, and they differ from sport touring full face helmets where the focus is more balanced between performance and comfort. But you will find that there's many choices, and in this test we will try to give you insights in the differences. The helmets we are going to cover in this guide are the AJV Pista GP, the X SPI Pro and the Bell Raystar Flex DLX, to name a few. We begin the guide with the material part, and to earn stars for the material we look at two things. First, what the outer shell is made of, and second, in how many outer shell sizes the helmet is available in. The more outer shell sizes a helmet has, the better, as not only does it look better, it will usually also improve the comfort. Now, looking at the results, all helmets earn 4 stars, and these helmets are made of fiberglass and come in 4 outer shell sizes. Or the helmet is available in 3 outer shell sizes, but the material is carbon, and carbon compensates because carbon is a better quality material. Okay, let's have a look at the results. You see, there are 2 outliers in this part, and those are the AJV Pista and the Bell Raystar Flex. And the Pista is available in 4 shell sizes and is made of carbon, which is already good, but the Bell Raystar Flex surpasses this with a whopping 5 shell sizes, which is exceptionally good. We don't really see this amount of shell sizes very often, so that means almost every size has a different outer shell size, so Bell immediately takes the lead on this part. We still have a lot of things to cover, so let's move on to the weight. Okay, we continue with the weight, and weight is a pretty important part because a lighter helmet prevents fatigue in the neck and therefore improves your overall riding experience. We rate all our helmets the same in a size M on the same scale. All our helmets earn stars according to our weight matrix, and the matrix is pretty straightforward. The lower the number, the lighter the helmet and the more stars it earns. Alright, let's have a look at the results. We placed all our helmets in a chart giving us a clear overview, and the most lightweight helmet is the Roof RO200 Carbon with an impressive weight of 1104 grams, making it the lightest helmet. With this result, Roof trumps the best known brands by a serious margin. But it's not the only helmet that earns 5 stars. The X803 and the Thunder Carbon also stayed under 1400 grams, which is a great result. The other helmets in the top 10 all earned 4 stars, with Roof being the strongest contender. So very interesting results for the weight. Alright, on to the next part, which is the visor. And for the visor, our helmets can score points on several criteria, and examples include whether or not the helmet is spin lock prepared and if the spin lock is included in the box, the quality of the visor mechanism, and if an extra visor is included, for example. In our visor matrix you can see how the helmets earned their stars. Now let's see how our contenders did. The Bell Raystar Flex earned another incredible 5 stars for this part, thanks to a solid visor mechanism and the pin lock lens preparation, which is included in the box. But the difference is made thanks to a transition visor, which is included in the box, a big plus. The XR1 earned 4.5 stars for this part. The helmet is spin lock lens prepared with the lens included in the box. The difference was made by an additional smoke visor that is included in the box. The X SPI Pro also scored 4.5 stars for this part, but owes its slightly better score to a sophisticated visor mechanism. If we look further, we see that also for this part it is very close, and most helmets earned 4 stars. All these helmets are tear-off and pin lock lens prepared, with both the lens and the tear-offs included in the box. The helmets that perform just a little less were the Pista, the Raystar Pro and the RO200. These helmets had a less sophisticated visor mechanism. And this wraps up our review in the studio. Let's see how our contenders performed out on the road. Before we jump into the results, first a brief explanation on how we collect our data. On the left you see a white thermometer that displays the inside temperature inside the helmet and is connected to a sensor inside the helmet. In the top center you see the decibel meter. This is connected to a microphone placed close to our rider's ear, and this records the sound the same way as our rider hears it. On the right we see a phone that displays the wind speed and outside temperature. In the middle you see the dashboard showing our test rider speed. With that out of the way, let's start with the noise part. And a side note here is that racing helmets are not necessarily designed to be quiet, especially out on the track where most riders will wear earplugs. However, since these helmets are still most commonly worn on the road by everyday riders like you and me, we obviously want to know how noisy they are. In our noise matrix, you can see how the stars are earned in terms of noise. Each helmet can earn a certain number of stars depending on the amount of decibels we measure. The lower the decibel, the quieter the helmet, and therefore the more stars it scores. All our helmets are tested on the same bike at a constant speed of 130 km an hour on long stretches of highway in similar conditions. Alright, now let's see how our contenders did. Looking at the results, we see one helmet that stands out, which is the EXO R1 Evo Carbon. This helmet had an average reading of 96 decibels, which is extremely low and only 1 decibel louder than the quietest helmet we've ever measured. 1 decibel may not sound like much, but it's still very audible when you're wearing the helmet. The X SPR Pro also stayed under 100 decibels with an average reading of 99. The most noticeable and disappointing helmet is the Pista, with a reading of 107 decibels. So if you really want hearing damage, I guess this is the helmet for you. And I guess that's also why the Pista comes with earplugs. Looking at the other helmets, we see that the Alpha 1 and the RX-7 Evo do well with 100 decibels and earned 4 stars. The Thunder Carbon and the Raystar Flex DLX also performed relatively okay thanks to a reading of 101 decibels, earning 3 stars. And if you look further, we see no big outliers and most helmets have a value of 102 to 105 decibels. So again, very interesting results for the noise. Okay, great. We're continuing with a very important part for racing, the ventilation, especially for racing helmets. So it's interesting to see which one actually performs the best. And in our ventilation matrix, we look at the difference between the inside and the outside temperature, as this gives us a good idea of how the ventilation is doing its job. We use bandwidths to capture strong and weak ventilation systems. Let's have a look at the results for ventilation. Looking at our chart, we can see that for most helmets we measured little to no difference between the inside and outside temperatures. Of all the helmets we tested, you can see how important ventilation is in racing helmets. Almost all brands did this exceptionally well. Especially if you compare this to the more mid-range helmets where you rarely see these kinds of scores anyway. The helmets that stood out in a negative way are the X803 Ultra Carbon and the RO200. These helmets were 3 degrees hotter than the outside temperature, and because of this they both earned a somewhat disappointing 2 stars. So much for ventilation, and we'll move on to comfort. Comfort is the only part in our daily review where we look at more than just hard numbers, and for this part we lean on the more than 15 years of riding experience of our test rider. It's also worth mentioning that our rider has tested all the other helmets we mentioned, enabling him to make a very good comparison. We call this part comfort, but we actually test more than just comfort. Our rider evaluates different components for each helmet, such as wind resistance, how the helmet behaves on the road, the quality of the inner lining, the finish of the helmet, the overall feel of the helmet, the quality of the binding materials like glue and screws, etc. Alright, let's see how our helmets did. We see that many of the racing helmets have earned a final score of 4 stars. This was somewhat expected since we're reviewing the very best racing helmets available today. Our rider gave the X SPR Pro the highest possible score for comfort. Our rider mentioned that the extra soft material behind the ear is an example of Shoei's attention to detail. But most importantly, how the helmet feels at higher speeds was a noticeable difference. This is a direct result of the extensive wind tunnel testing and overall research and development that Shoei puts into its premium models. Our rider also mentioned the AGV Pista as an ideal track helmet thanks to its excellent aerodynamics and ventilation and the particularly customizable liner. The RO200 and the EXO R1 Evo and the Thunder scored less for this part at only 3 stars, as our rider found the inner lining to feel a bit cheaper and noticeably less comfortable and qualitative compared to the other top racing helmets. Okay, so far our road test. Now let's have a look at what bells and whistles these helmets come with. And here we're looking at what features our customers have asked us about the most. You see, every feature is different, so some features are judged more heavily than others. In the overview you can see which options are rewarded and how many points they can earn for each feature. These include communication systems, wind tunnel testing, FIM certification, quick release options, extra safety options and more. So let's have a look at the results. These are the 5 helmets that earn 4 stars for the featured parts, and these are the X-SPI Pro, the Pista, the Alpha 1 and the RX-7V Evo. These helmets are FEM certified, wind tunnel tested and had other options such as an emergency quick release, so they came with pretty much all that you could want from a high-end racing helmet. The Race Star also earned 4 stars but did not have a FEM certification. These helmets are closely followed by the XO R1 Evo and the Thunder Carbon for 3 stars. For example, these helmets are not wind tunnel tested, not FEM certified, but they have good communication options and they have an emergency quick release and are 2206 certified. The 2 helmets that have the fewest additional options are the X803 and R200 Carbon, which again let us down for this part. Now that we've gathered all our data, let's add everything up and look at the overall picture. Okay, great. Let's put all our helmets side by side and get a clear overview of how they performed across the board. And what is noticeable right away is that the X-SPI Pro, Race Star DLX, Alpha 1 and the RX-7V do very well, and are true all-round helmets that performed very strong on each part. Hardly any weaknesses to be found there. The Scorpion was strong on almost every part except for comfort and features. The Pista had a particularly weak performance on the noise and the visor wasn't exactly amazing either. In this overview we can actually see that the Race R Pro and the R200 are no longer competing for the title of best racing helmet anymore. There were too many parts where they simply fell short to compete with the best of the best. But we have one less part left. With the results so far we get a great idea of how they stack up for performance, but there's one important aspect missing, and that is the price or value for money. This brings us to the value for money part, and this is where we calculate the price per star, which allows us to find out which helmet gives you the best value for money. We then use the price quality scores in our ranking to assign these helmets with additional points. This gives us a much better idea of how these helmets compare and how effective their price is in relation to their performance. Enough said, let's take a look at the results. At the top we see the X-SPI Pro with a price quality score of 4.4 thanks to an average of 4.2 for which you pay 27 euros per star. Next up is the Alpha 1 with a price quality of 4 and an average of 4 for which you pay 25 euros per star. Looking further we see another striking result, the AGV Pista, which despite an average of 3.6 only gets a bonus of 0.9, and in other terms they really overpriced it for what it offers. It's probably the most beautiful helmet of the bunch, it's very nice, but man, the price tag is really serious. The lowest priced helmet we tested for this segment is a Thunder Carbon. This helmet has a retail price of around 500 euros with an average star rating of 3.7, and this means that the price per star comes down to 19 euros and giving it a nice price quality score of 2.7 stars. Or as you would say, this helmet is really punching above its weight. This overview clearly shows that even when the quality is very similar, in some cases the price can be a huge difference. And as long as you keep this in mind when choosing your racing helmet, you'll be absolutely fine. And with that said, we've now gathered all our data and it's time to take a look at the final verdict and find out which helmet is the best racing helmet of 2023. Excellent, now let's start announcing the winner. To keep things exciting, we're starting all the way at the bottom in 10th place, and then we find the Roof R200 with a final score of 6.5. Which you buy mainly for its cool looks, but it's certainly not for its ventilation or features. However, this helmet did take the title of lightest helmets, so if you're just looking for a lightweight helmet and nothing more, this is your helmet. And in 9th place we find the Shark Race R Pro GP with a final score of 6.9, and the Race R Pro did very well on weight and ventilation and comfort, but had a hefty price tag of 1000 euros and also scored weakly on noise and features. We continue with the 8th place where we find the X-Lite X803 RS. This helmet was strong on weight, material, visor and comfort, but performed weak on the sound and the ventilation. And then, only in 7th place, we have the AGV Pista GP RR, and this helmet is often praised, and perhaps also because of Valentino Rossi. But if you look purely at the numbers, a 7th place is a rather disappointing, and especially when you consider that this is by far the most expensive helmet on the list. The helmet earned a nice final score of 7.4, did well on material, weight, comfort, ventilation and features, and in contrast it scored weakly on the visor and it dramatically on the noise. Combined with the price tag, this helmet unfortunately fell outside the top 5. Another helmet that also fell outside the top 5 is a newcomer, the LS2 Thunder Carbon. This helmet scored great on weight, but unfortunately also let down on comfort and features, but not a bad result at all. Now we've come to our top 5 and I can already tell you that it's very close, and in 5th place we see the Scorpion XO R1 Evo Carbon, and this helmet scored very well on material, weight, visor and even very well on the noise with an incredible reading of 96 decibels, but missed the boat in terms of comfort and features. And despite missing some points on those parts, it is a very good value for money score, and this resulted in a very nice final score of 8. Then, in 4th place, we find the Arai RX-7V Evo, and this helmet scored strongly on all parts without a single exception. This helmet is extremely consistent with 4 stars for every part and is a true all-round helmet compared to the other helmets we've mentioned so far. But it was never the strongest on any part, and therefore the Arai gets a solid score of 8.2 and ends at 4th. We have arrived at the top 3 very best racing helmets of 2023, and the bronze is taken by the HEC Alpha 1, which performed great on every part and is an all-round helmet with a score of 4 stars on every part, which we don't see very often. This has resulted in a great score of 8.5. It's time to answer the burning question we've all been waiting for. Which helmet is the best racing helmet of 2023? Will it be the Bell Raystar Flex DLX or the Shoei X SPI Pro? And in 2nd place we have the Raystar Flex with a score of 8.5, which means that the Shoei X SPI Pro finds itself at the top of the food chain with an average score of 8.9 and can therefore call itself the best performing racing helmet of 2023. Looking at all the data we collected, we can say that Shoei, the XPR Pro, the Raystar Flex DLX performed equally, but the small difference was made by a slightly better comfort and noise insulation for the X SPR Pro. This was it. We collected and analyzed large amounts of data, and this allows us to state, based on the numbers, that the Shoei X SPR Pro is the best overall racing helmet available today. But this year, the fight was even more intense and the differences were even smaller. What is especially interesting to see is that some helmets were absolute specialists and where others were more all-round. And yes, we know we could do even more research, and yes, there were even more accurate methods, but the purpose of our data is to make the differences more visible. And the purpose of this video is mainly to represent an honest objective facts to help you choose the right helmet for you, based on your own personal preferences, nothing more and nothing less. Do you think one of these top race helmets is for you, and would you like even more information? Then be sure to head over to championhelmets.com, where we offer the lowest price guarantees and have great discount bundles for most of the helmets you saw today. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. My name is Toon from Champion Helmets, and until next time.